Yeah, wonderful. So welcome to another STEM Stories podcast. Today we're talking to Ian Thompson, who on the face of it has a story very similar to mine, maths tutor as well as myself, but a very different story leading there. So thanks for coming on to the podcast today, Ian.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's really good to be here and really nice to chat again. And yeah, it's a change from maybe lots of tuition in the day. So it's good to have a little
Yeah.
something different going on as well.
Conversation with adults, or I think you also tutor adults, don't you? Mine's mostly teenagers.
I do, yes, yeah. So we've got quite a range of different age groups of students, anywhere from probably about key stage 3 all the way through to A level, and then adults as well. So yeah, any age group. There's no upper limit.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I have these conversations with quite a lot of the time because I tutor parents. So I tutor teenagers, and talking to their parents, they're saying sometimes, "Oh, I wish I'd studied this. What they're doing sounds really interesting." And I'll say, "Well, like, what's stopping you?" And they'll laugh. Like, I think it's that picture of that learn this means going to university and being in halls with teenagers, and in fact, that's not the case at all, is it?
No, not at all, is it? No. And there's a lot of opportunity either in person, sort of face to face, or in a group in person. There's also lots of opportunity, isn't there, online now, as we both teach online as well. So that opens up a lot of different opportunities, people of all levels. So that includes whether you're working for a GCSE, an A level, a functional skill, or you're working towards a degree. And there are lots of skills that are needed to be learned and taught up to all different age groups.
I mean, I'm now going a little bit off piste, but you kind of sparked something that I was interested in, that I was looking into just this week, around the option to study core maths if you're interested in maths but not quite motivated to take your A level. Have you ever seen that one?
I have seen that, yes. It's very rare in the world that I've seen. It's as in a lot of colleges or schools are very strict at only offering a full A level. So there is options through the awarding bodies to do some aspects of A level rather than all available. And it is quite useful from the experience that I've had for particularly some apprentices who may be going into some perhaps engineering, and they don't all have A-level maths. Maybe there's an assumption that they do, but they don't. So and then there is an element of maths that you'll come across when you start on an engineering degree, and you do need core A-level maths for that purpose. And I have taught, in fact, 2 or 3 adults in that situation who have said, I'm now, I don't know, I might be 30 years of age now, but I'm coming back and I'm saying I don't know this maths, and they feel they've forgotten something from school, and I look at their history and I say, well, you haven't forgotten it from school, you never learnt it in school. It's not part of your GCSE, so you never actually learnt it.
Oh, wonderful. So I didn't realise this is an option, and it's not even a new option. It's something that's just not similar to functional skills we were talking about recently. It's people perceive their career, their study journey as being GCSEs, A levels, university, and that's not even necessarily the best option for them.
No, and it's probably there's less than half of the population probably do that and go into work. I suspect, like my career, I didn't go that route initially. I sort of I left school and went for any job, and I realized afterwards I maybe should have looked for something else that was a bit more career orientated. But by doing any job, I tried a few different jobs, and I found the sort of work that I really enjoyed, and that actually gave me a good sense of direction, probably at least 5 years after I left school, to really then focus and decide what I would like to do as a career.
Yeah, it's certainly worthwhile, because I mean, who leaves school knowing who they are and what they enjoy and what options they have open to them?
Not too many, maybe not too many.
No. Yeah, obviously they would explore and find out. A similar idea, like I knew I was interested in science, so I studied science, but then after that, it's okay, I got to the end of university and that was the end of the path. I'm supposed to have a job now. That's what I was told happens. Where
Yes,
do I
and
get
then
one of those?
where to? And I know some universities are reasonably good at trying to help you with career paths, aren't they, in the last year or two? But it's still depending maybe where in the country you are, might depend on what options are available locally.
Yeah, yeah.
And even though there's a international market perhaps online, you wouldn't always maybe reach out to somebody in a different country for your first job. That'd be a big stretch, wouldn't it?
It would be bold.
Yes, yeah, yes.
Yeah, I think you might get points for boldness. So we've kind of said it alongside what we were discussing here, but could you tell us a little bit about how would you describe your current role?
So I've become, I guess, an expert in mathematics, which I use that in education and in business, really.
Yeah.
So I've got two sort of strings to my bow, if you like, and look at it that way. So as well as becoming knowledgeable about all different aspects of formal mathematic education in schools, I've also then reached out to people who are being home educated and don't have that support facility of schools and colleges. I can help in that way. I've also helped people with mathematics who are in business, sometimes directors of businesses who have been really good at something, say construction, and then they've suddenly become a director of a business and suddenly realized they needed to know a lot more about numbers than they ever did. and all that, the chat that they had at school, which was, oh, I won't need to know about business, it sort of comes back around. Well, actually, and I think I do. And then all of this as well, by talking to directors of businesses as well, I've become a mentor as well, if you like. And I'm looking at doing some other work in mentoring in business, which then I think it utilizes skills that I have in life, I guess, as well as the work that I've done in education and in retail when I worked in retail 20 years ago or so.
Oh, fab. Yeah, this is quite an interesting mix, but like we were talking about previously, I think you do just kind of learn what interests you and what skills and strengths you have that you might not, it seems obvious, you might not notice, because I think we're like usually the last to notice things like that, because we don't realize that what comes easily does not come as easily for other people.
That's true, yes, yeah. And I think that is, even when people tell you sometimes, somebody might, I guess a lot of people would have said to me, oh, you're good at mathematics, are you? And I'd have gone, oh, yes, yeah. But I didn't realize any sort of consequences of that, if that was going to help me in the future. And it felt like when I left school, there was a lack of jobs, I think, in nothing that really seemed interesting. But actually I think it was probably by working in retail and working amongst a lot of people, you get to know people, get to know your skills. And I think I probably started off just by being somebody who's in that environment, in a retail environment, in an office it was actually. I was able to help other people, not as a formal trainer, but just by helping other people. So when somebody wanted to know how the computer system worked, I seemed to get to know that quite quickly, so I could show them. When they wanted to know about how to talk to a customer, I seemed to know that quite well, so I taught them about that. And then also when they wanted to know about product knowledge, so when we were looking at things like PlayStations when they first came out and things like that, getting different gaming systems, I seemed to know a little bit about that as well. And so I was able to talk to colleagues about how to talk to customers and how to use the systems and things. And that's then actually led, when a manager role came up in that environment, I then became a manager of those people and then a trainer of those people. So that's sort of how I became into training. That's how I came back into teaching, which I must say, as a 16-year-old, the last thing on my mind would have been to become a teacher. It was so far away from what I was going to be.
Not interested at all.
No, it just didn't seem, I just couldn't imagine me doing that thing.
Yeah. When I was at primary school, I wanted to be a teacher, and then when I went to secondary school and saw, because I just always have quite a quiet voice and quiet communication style, I realised I would not be able to manage the behaviour of 30 students in a classroom. Not my natural forte.
No.
Lucky that I found the option to tutor, because I only was aware of classroom teaching as the option, so I went in a completely different direction.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I had quite a quiet spoken voice, I guess, as well. But when I did work in a college, I did learn to project my voice, I guess, and it just becomes a skill, doesn't it? So I can, I believe, do that. And I think I would do it naturally. And if somebody said to me, "Can you project your voice now?" I'd probably say, "No, probably not." But if in a room with a group of people, it just happens naturally. But it's something that you learn by by doing it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess like 13-year-old me thought not a chance.
Which was my 16-year-old me was the same.
Yeah, can't do that. But yeah, like you say, you can. You're never quite aware of just how much you can do until you have to do it, and then it's either, oh, I can do this. This is okay, or I did it, but I'd rather not do it again.
That's right. Yes. And actually, if I might tell you about as well, there was a good incident as well when I had a bit of a mentor and a guy who was working with Paul. And when I first went to the college, I think I'd been helping people in small groups basically before I actually taught in a bigger group. And I remember there was one day he was running a GCSE class, and I was in there assisting him as well. And he suddenly said, "Oh, I've got to go out for half an hour." And I don't know if that was true or not, but he said, "I've got to go out for half an hour." And he just gave me this pen and said, "Carry on." And so this was a board pen, as in like, so carry on teaching these people. And this was almost like this was the biggest class I'd ever come across.
No warning.
With no warning, no. To be fair, it worked, but he must have.
Wow.
Just in the sense that I think these were actually, to be fair, these were adult students as well. They were very enthusiastic, well behaved, the right questions and all that sort of thing. So the worst that could happen, I could have too many questions. It wasn't like anybody was going to cause me trouble by throwing things around or something. So no, but it worked out really well. And then from there, I then took on quite a few more GCSE classes, and then just gained skills in handling people, I guess, because I already had the skill in mathematics at the time.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
But I am sort of, I'm grateful to him for doing that in a way, because it was really good. It's a really good turning point. I always remember.
Yeah. Been at the deep end, you swam.
Yes, yeah. As a teacher, you don't always swim. The teachers know that, but on that day, I was swimming well.
I like that. Okay, so the movement into teaching was that, if I'm understanding correctly, was that as a result of what had happened in your role in retail that led you into that like teaching route?
Yeah, actually, yes. So in retail, I became more of a trainer at times and enjoyed that side of things. As I said, I enjoyed teaching people things, and I set up a 6-week course for people who were starting in the organization, this sort of thing. And then I also had a degree in business by that time, and I thought it might be quite helpful to go to a college and teach business. So, but I approached quite a few local colleges. And what I realized was there was probably one business teacher in every college I approached. And I thought, well, there's only one business teacher. And if they're not retiring for a few years, what's the chance of me getting a job there? And it became apparent it was probably unlikely unless I went further afield. So I then I found a role as maths in local community education. And then I was able to upskill to make sure I had the teaching qualification to then go into the college. Then a few years later, went back into the college and started teaching there. But it came from retail and training, really.
So when you left school, did you have any idea of where you might go?
No, no, I don't think I really did. No, people had suggested that I was good at math, so you could go and work in a bank. So I applied for a few bank jobs because that's what I was asked to do. But
Nice.
I don't think I ever got one reply back. I didn't get one letter or anything.
Oh,
Strange. But then I did find something out, and this was only very recently in the last year, I think. I was talking to a friend who was at the football, which is strange, but he'd worked in local industry since we'd left school. And he said to me, I was going to apply for a bank, but you couldn't apply because if you only had a GCSE, then only girls would get jobs in banks. So it was a rule of the time.
yeah.
Boys would get jobs in banks if you had A level, and girls would have jobs in banks if you had GCSE.
Why does that make any sense?
I suspect it's because they were. This is where maybe your STEM entrepreneurs and women and things comes into this as well. But I suspect that the idea was that the men would get the better jobs because they came in at an A level, didn't they?
Oh, right.
Whereas the young women would come in at GCSE would not get those good jobs, and they were never expected to.
Nice. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm be saying that was what was happening.
It tracks. I think it's probably similar ideas to the misconception that girls are less interested in studying A-level maths. So if we're looking for girls who study A-level maths, we won't find any, because why would they? Yeah.
Obviously. No, that's true. No, but I have since the good news is I am teaching now. Taught a young lady A-level maths last year, and I've got at least one, maybe two this year. So yeah, so they are still there. A-level maths girls are there.
Yeah. I mean, I very much wish that I taught A-level maths. I actually went for the sixth form day where you could go and see all of the classes, and I walked into the room where they were going to be teaching A-level maths, and there was a teacher that I'd never seen before because it was a big school, and there was A-level maths all over the walls. And I was like, this looks like Greek, because it literally is, and I have no idea what any of this means.
No. It is a very daunting beginning, isn't it, A-level maths? And I think the step up from GCSE is quite a reasonably big step, because it's A-level maths is reasonably focused on 2 or 3 ideas around maths, whereas GCSE is a lot of different topics, isn't it? 140 topics in GCSE, and they're just so varied of different things. So some people are able to pick up the skills in statistics, whereas others are more number. But either way, it allows people more chance to get a pass.
Yeah.
Whereas the A level in general is quite specific.
Yeah. I guess it's a similar thing as what happens in A-level sciences, that it's similar topics, but it gets more focused, and you get into more detail on specific things, which is reasonable. Like, as you progress in studies and make choices in topics, it needs to, and then you can make better choices for the next round. Like, I was interested in this area of study, so that's what I'm going to do next.
Yeah, and it's I think if you can get over the first 3 or 4 months in A-level maths, a lot of people do get on with it really well. But it's such a short study time. You really need to pick up a lot of knowledge in year 1 to make sure you're ready for year 2. It's quite intense.
Yeah, so I guess this is why it's helpful to have knowledge of things like the core maths study option, or an A-level specifically in statistics or a particular field that you're interested in.
That's true, yes. And I think what happens as well is in over a number of years, some schools teach high around foundation, but some schools might have the opinion that a certain group of students can only work towards a foundation GCSE, which is the slightly lower level. And for those students, if they went on to do a degree in engineering, which is not impossible, then they have even further steps to climb, because they then have to understand higher maths at GCSE as well as A level, before then working on their engineering course. So there's a lot to do, even though by the time perhaps a 30-year-old on an engineering course would be a little bit more mature and perhaps sometimes more focused to try to achieve. But even though it's a lot to understand.
Yes. And yeah, additionally they would have probably a job and maybe children to look after as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, that was the other side of it. To be fair, I remember, there's someone I was teaching last year. His problem was that he couldn't get half an hour away from the children, because he had really young children, like 6 years old or something. Yeah.
Oh, cute. Yeah, they'll really help. But yeah, there's loads of, like, I didn't even realize until a few years ago that you can do a GCSE in engineering specifically, and probably quite specific A levels as well. People have an interest. It's worth looking at options outside of what their own school offers.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that I'm, doing with my business as well, Maths by Ian, I am looking at different ways of helping people to find out about those type of courses as well, because the school curriculum can be quite narrow, as in it is just GCSE maths, GCSE English. And I know everybody expects that, but there is also those other, I think you mentioned one there, GCSE statistics, GCSE engineering, and there is quite a few exams that you can take outside of school. And actually, I've a good example. Just recently, I've got a young student in Nottingham area who goes to quite a good school, as far as I know. The feedback I get is really, really good, brilliant. But he was learning GCSE maths, but I also had a chat with his parents, and I also helped him prepare for further maths. So GCSE also took further maths, which seemed a lot of work, but predominantly for most of that curriculum, he had a lot of knowledge from his higher GCSE. And that also now puts him in a really good place to be more knowledgeable to take on A level, because of that step up from GCSE to A level. So he was, to be fair, he was really successful, and partly from hopefully my tuition, but also partly from his motivation as well. And he got a grade 8 at further maths GCSE. And his school were not teaching that. It was just something that he added on as. But it proves that there are other topics around GCSE. They're not easy to find yet. I suspect they're going to be easier to find in the near future with more online exam centres coming through. But at the minute, there isn't that many, I don't think.
I mean, it'd be really, it's really good fit for online exams. Maths just would work really well. I think the first one that they were trialing online exams was some of the modern foreign languages. But I don't understand why computer science is still a paper exam, and maths could easily follow quite quickly behind that.
Yeah, well, the functional skills though, which I'm also teaching as well, is already online, so you can take the online version of functional skills. I think the system is not fully modernized. It wouldn't be quite like taking an exam on your iPhone or your Android, but it's still good enough to go through and then answer questions and pass the test, hopefully, if you've got the knowledge.
Like the driving theory was a computer-based test when I did it, but it was still, you had to go into the centre and sit in a row and do it on their computer.
All right, okay. Well, the past functional skills now, you can actually do it in your kitchen, so you can do it at home. But as long as you can find yourself 2 cameras and don't get disturbed by your dog or your cat, that's always a good story, because that will stop your exam. Yeah. See, as long as you're on your own in a room, in a whatever room it is, and you don't get disturbed, 2 cameras, you can take a functional skills exam in either English or maths.
Oh, I would love that. Just sitting at home doing an exam with the cat on your knee. Lovely.
No, you can't have the cat on your knee.
Why?
Might disturb you.
Imagining the cat being like, no, it's not that one.
Is that, yeah. No, that'd be good fun. Yeah, to be fair, they think. I don't know. There's usually somebody observing, and for some reason they don't want disruption. I hear cats.
There's always a reason for these bizarre rules, which means that somebody has done something involving a cat that has required them to ban them.
Exactly. Yeah. Just one person.
I love it. I kind of want to know what the story is. Brilliant. So, it does kind of sound like you found your happy niche. You tried a few different roles, and it led into somewhere where you feel this is a happy place for Ian.
Yes, it is definitely. Yeah, and I think I enjoy helping, teaching, mentoring, training, and there's all the skills that I have, I guess, and fit across all of those words to some extent. And so I enjoy helping people at all different aspects of their life, I guess. And as you mentioned, Georgina, you don't really know you're an expert until you're telling somebody else, aren't you? And then you suddenly think, oh, I know a little bit more, so I can help somebody else.
And it's worth paying attention. I've certainly noticed myself, it's worth paying attention to the compliments that people pay you. Like some ridiculous things are just baseless compliments, but when they're quite specific and they set people individually saying similar things, it's worth paying attention to that, because that means that's something that stands out as a strength for you.
Yes, and that sometimes, as being humble, you don't always realize that, do you? No, but it definitely, I started to look at that a few times myself, I think. Yes. And it's quite good because then something else that I've been teaching adults is in care homes where accredited nursing, and again it's that skill, that math skill, but also an English skill as well. Being able to so to become an accredited nurse, and you can do that directly through the NHS. Again, its traditional routes would have been perhaps sixth form, university nursing, but actually you can access nursing in different ways as well. You could access nursing by working maybe in a care home or social care setting. But you still need to have that at some point. You need to upskill and have that little bit of formal education. And maybe with I guess what we both do is it as well. We can have flexibility in how we offer this, so that if somebody's available only at 8 o'clock on an evening, there's a chance you can do that. You could do that half an hour or an hour at that time.
I quite like that even for myself. Like, flexibility is helpful for learners, but the flexibility of being self-employed does make life easier.
It does, yeah, and you can pick and choose when the best times for you are. But it does, clearly it's going to help some students as well, isn't there? Yeah. And even 7 o'clock in the morning is a recent student of mine.
Oh my goodness. No.
So you might, but then you might say no to that. I don't know, but
I would definitely say no to that. I would 100%. And even if I said yes to it, that it would be foolish, because nobody would be paying for the me that would turn up at 7 o'clock in the morning.
You've got to find your best times of the day, haven't you?
Yeah, she's probably still attached to the pillow. I'm so sorry. Oh. I thought it was quite interesting, though, you mentioned that, having highlighted that you were good at maths, the suggestion that was made was that you would probably go and work in a bank. And a lot of the time I would get, why don't you, because I was fairly good at maths and science at school, I was told, would you be interested in being an accountant? And that did not in any way appeal to me.
No.
Which seems weird, because it's numbers and spreadsheets and I like those things. But I think that just people don't appreciate the breadth of what's available to them. So apart from the obvious, if you're teaching maths, then you are very regularly using curriculum maths. Are there any other things that you got from school that are perhaps surprisingly applicable skills to what you're doing now?
The skill side of things, in skills, yeah. I mean English. We're thinking English language. That, I guess, because at school somebody tells you you're good at maths, there's almost an assumption that I wasn't maybe good at English, because nobody told me that. Did they? Because they focused on the other. They didn't tell me about English language. But no, so in terms of, as a skill, English language is helpful. But even taking a qualification in woodwork at school is helpful, because you can do things with wood, and you can. But then mathematics as well, it's perspective, isn't it? Because then I find in some of the mathematics teaching at GCSE, it's sometimes hard for people to get a perspective of things.
Mm.
And you're trying to show something that has 3 dimensions, a height, a width, and a depth or something, and it's quite hard to display that on a flat piece of paper. So it's hard in schools, and to be fair, most of the exams, the way that the exams are set, haven't changed that much in GCSE for a long time. The diagrams are still the same as they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or something. They don't look any different to me.
Yeah. But the same as when I did them. When I did my GCSEs in the year 2000, so that's 24 years ago.
Yeah. So wow. No, but it's so from school, there's quite a lot of skills, I guess, in terms of just the interaction with people is a bigger skill as any that you can use, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose, but you do have to. Sometimes it takes a long time, doesn't it? We have to believe that you can do something.
Yeah, definitely.
And and it might be that you don't realize a little bit of training. So I did a little bit of training this summer myself again, just to keep updated. And a little bit of training sometimes means you're more skilled, but it also opens up other opportunities to meet an extra person. And then sometimes you don't know where that meeting that person will lead you.
Oh yeah.
And we're fortunate I think in our being self-employed, that if you meet somebody, you can actually try and talk to them a bit more, and you're not restrained by who you work for to tell you who you should be talking to. You can talk to who you'd like to.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was pitched to me when I was moving from employment to self-employment. So you don't have colleagues, but you kind of choose the people that you collaborate with and literally make your own office online. Oh,
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah. One of the things I was asked to do in the summer as part of this training was to write down collaborations, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I got, when you get to about 20 and you think, oh, there's really that many people, because you think you're actually maybe even just as somebody who owns your own business, you think you're on your own. If you talk about all those people who work with you, and include people such as yourself, I've talked to a few times, and other teachers I've talked to as well, and needed assistance from, and agencies that we use to help us stay on track. It's there's quite a lot to talk about, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's definitely. I mean, I'm a big fan of self-employment, and probably at the point I don't think I could work for somebody anymore.
No, and
not for everybody.
Not for everybody. No, and it does change your life in some ways, which have been really good.
Yeah.
But I think the skills definitely. I think the functional maths is something that's different. A lot of people haven't experienced that, but if you need to use that in apprenticeships, or you need to use that to upskill yourself, it can be used as an alternative to GCSE in some instances.
Yeah.
But
I don't think it's probably advertised enough, is it?
No, not at all. And it's easier to access in some ways at this moment in time than GCSE. You don't have to go to college for a full year, or you don't have to be in school to access these courses.
Yeah, it's much more applicable to the vast majority of jobs, excluding things that are quite mathematical, or even, I mean, to be fair, when you mentioned about the carpentry, I used to live next door to a man who was some sort of facilities. He was always making things and repairing things, and he told me he used trigonometry all of the time.
Yes, yeah.
Wouldn't even register that that's a skill that you'd need, but yeah, absolutely.
It's 3-4-5, which is what the Romans and Egyptians used to build straight walls, and it's just who knows that?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. See, maths is very relevant, but you only know that when you learn the maths and then benefit from the relevance.
The other thing is, isn't it, that sits alongside functional skills as well, and all the training that we talk about is confidence, isn't it? Because it's surprising, isn't it? If you see your students, they come in, they train with maths or English, but then their confidence changes because they realize, oh, that's not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're not suddenly thinking, well, I can do some of that, even if I can't do all of it. You can, to begin with, you can do some of that, can't you? And it gives the confidence that people gain from any sort of training is brilliant, I think.
It's definitely worth having the opportunity to appreciate that there's nobody born knowing maths. Nobody just came out of the womb as Pythagoras and
Yeah, that's this is very true. Yes, yeah. I think, yeah. And sometimes if I mention that, just sometimes a little bit joking, but it's that, Pythagoras spent all of his life doing that one idea, that one concept. I know the world has changed quite a lot now, but he still spent a lot of time just focusing on one or two concepts that have really changed the world today.
Absolute slacker. Unbelievable. And here now these children learn that in a week.
That's it, yeah. Or just look it up on the phone, yeah. But
Oh, let's not discredit the man. He did a very good job. Well done.
No, it was really, really important, wasn't it? Yeah. In the same way that whoever invented the smartphone was extremely important as well.
Oh yeah, important. And whilst they should probably balance their praise with criticism for what they've given us,
Well, not go down that route now.
No, no, I'm a big fan of the smartphone. Oh, thank you. So, do you think there's anything that, like, any kind of misconceptions that you would like to share about your particular role, or anything that we haven't covered about your current role and what's led you there?
I think the only thing is misconceptions probably comes from what people imagine or envisage a maths teacher to be.
Yeah.
And I think that can be, and it always relates people straight back to their school classroom, school environments. And I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of people. It leads them back to that environment, doesn't it? And I guess that is a misconception in many ways for me, because there are so many different ways just in my business could help, and any other business that we can help with one-to-one tutoring in person, but we can also do that online. We can have one-to-many tutoring online, where we could be one teacher and quite a few students. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. We just got to find the right place for that to work. I've found that works very well with adults. So one person and 5 or 6 adults, that works really, really well. So there's that sort of thing. There's also courses that I can offer, and I could offer a course and a little bit of one-to-one tuition as well. So it's a mixture. It's finding that right mix. And I think that's a lot of the time is the misconception, because in school or in college, you only have one perception that this is the way it works, isn't it?
Yeah.
And however the teacher sets out the tables at the beginning of the year, that's how it stays for the rest of the year. And it doesn't have to be like that, does it? There are so many different ways that as individuals you can learn by support what the school's doing for you, or support what the college is doing for you, or just come and do something which is just a completely new, completely standalone. And just here's one as well. Just do something for the fun of it, because that's something that
oh my goodness,
we don't
believe when I say maths is fun.
I know.
It is,
but it can be, can't it, with the right instruction, because it does, and within reason. I don't even have to follow the school curriculum. There are things outside of the school curriculum in maths that I could teach you about.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing when there is an exam to be sat at the end of it. Obviously, that's in mind, but it doesn't mean that the learning is about the joy of learning. It's really frustrating, to be honest, that there's an exam at the end of it.
That's correct. Yeah. And of course, I've seen a lot more. Sort of been in business as well as been in teaching now. I've seen a lot more connections between business and mathematics, whether that's photography and perspectives, and I've realized how that that's really impacted by mathematics.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's everywhere, isn't it? It's in everything.
And it's in everything. Of course, there's Fibonacci and the sunflower.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So not everybody knows that, but again, we can something it's interesting to know that even in nature, it's all around us.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I think that, I mean, it's I can understand why that's not necessarily the perspective that a student has in the classroom with potentially maths anxiety and negative messages around the study of maths. I can see why they don't necessarily get the opportunity to appreciate that. And I know for myself that I didn't until I didn't have to study maths anymore.
Yeah.
Chose to do. Yeah, but ideally, if we have the opportunity for you and I, when we're working with a student one-on-one or in a small group, you have the opportunity to show them more of those things that can take some of that anxiety away and help them actually enjoy the learning process.
Certainly online gives us the opportunity to show different photographs or short videos, which sort of give you a different idea of maths. And it's not just about the here are 20 questions, let's see how many you can get right. It's not all about that, is it?
No.
I hope it's not anyway.
That is ultimately quite a waste of time, but I don't want to ruin anyone's homework plans. So
No, sorry.
it is pretty much a waste of time. There we are. Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you very much, Ian. So if people want to get in touch with you and talk about your maths study options, where's the best place for them to come and find you?
Find me on the website, mathsbyian.co.uk. I think that'll be the best place. I'm also on LinkedIn.
Wonderful.
And Ian Thompson, math specialist. Find me there. And if
I'll stick those.
Happy to chat to anybody about mathematics, mentoring or business, or I think, like I said, just it goes across a lot of different ideas that I would suggest.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you very much. So
Appreciate it. Thank you.
To the show notes, so wherever people are watching or listening to us, they'll be able to find those links and connect with you, and hopefully enjoy a bit of additional maths in their life.
They will, definitely.
Thank you very much, Ian. Have a good day. Lovely chatting with you.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye. Hi, I'm your podcast host, Georgina Green, and the founder of Green Tutors, STEM Specialist Tuition Company. We've been supporting students with their GCSE and A-level maths, science and STEM subject studies since 2011, and our team all work and have a passion for STEM professions such as engineering and chemical synthesis and medicines and all sorts of fantastic things in the world of STEM beyond the curriculum, which is what we bring into our lessons to make them more exciting, and the reason I wanted to share this podcast with you all. Alongside that, we've launched the STEM Educators Academy, where other STEM professionals and STEM education enthusiasts can come and learn about how to grow their STEM education practices together. If you're interested in any of the support that we offer, get in touch at greentutors.uk and you can access some of the free resources on there as well. This podcast would not exist without the sponsorship of STEMazing. I'm very grateful to STEMazing, not only for sponsoring our podcast, but for the brilliant work that they're doing, fostering inspiration and inclusion in STEM. I recommend having a look at their website, stemazing.co.uk, which is what you can see right now, to see a bit more about the work that they do. Alongside the award-winning Inspiration Academy, bringing events into primary schools and inspiring young people to see their future in STEM, because you can't be what you can't see. There's a fantastic membership, which I'm a part of, for women in STEM to do more of this, fostering inspiration and inclusion in STEM, with monthly content shared on empowerment, inspiration, and community. Will help you to be a better role model and mentor to people in STEM. And finally, there's a brilliant library here of role models in STEM that you can go and have a look at and hear more about their STEM stories. Here's a shout out for our sponsor, Navigated Tutor. If you haven't seen this, I recommend having a look if you're in education. The Navigated Tutor platform gives access to a quarterly webinar and magazine and training resources. The first one I've already read and attended, and in minutes learned lots that's going to make a massive impact on the way that I support my students. This is brought to you by Arthur Moore, who is not only a fantastic tutor but also the host of the Tea and Teaching podcast and Tutoring Tips podcast, two of my most listened podcasts. I recommend that you go and check those out if you're working in education at all, and sign yourself up to the Navigated Tutor platform for some fantastic CPD. You can get access to this at mooreedu.thinkific.com. That's mooreedu.thinkific.com.